Hello, everyone, and welcome to another of our Icelandic Roots public webinars. This time, it's Destination Skalholt. For those of you unfamiliar with Icelandic Roots, we are a nonprofit organization to promote, preserve our Icelandic heritage, culture, genealogy, and history. To learn more, we encourage you to visit our website at www.icelandicroots.com. as well as watch for us on Facebook and Instagram. Please note that this webinar, as you saw in the opening slide, it is being recorded, and it will be available in about a week on our Icelandic Roots YouTube channel. Since it is in a webinar format, all participants other than the three panelists that you see now will be muted and not visible. We encourage anyone to submit questions or comments using the Q&A button, usually located at the bottom of the Zoom screen right above your taskbar. I am Jody Orman-Jones, a volunteer with Icelandic Roots, and I'm coming to you today from a very blustery Minnesota. And joining me is Doug Hansen, another Icelandic Roots volunteer located in Virginia, and he's our technical support. And then, of course, you see our lovely Herdís Friðriksdóttir coming to us from Iceland. I did want to mention especially that I am pleased to see that Bryndís is visiting with us today. She is the person who suggested that we contact you, Herdís, and the one who suggested Skalholt would be a wonderful place to visit, even if only virtually. Often when I visit with our amazing Icelandic cousins, I feel very inadequate, and Herdís Friðriksdóttir is a prime example of that. She holds a variety of degrees, a BS in forestry, an MS in land use in developing countries. She also has an MS in project management. She speaks 5 languages, has visited at least 25 countries, worked as a volunteer in Zambia, participated in study abroad programs in Borneo. She's also a wife, a mother. She's a certified tour guide, bus driver, the owner of Understand Iceland, which is a tour guide company specializing in educational tours. And, oh yes, she's also the director of the Skalholt Cathedral and Estate, which is arguably one of the most important locations in Iceland. She describes herself as passionate about helping people get to know the real Iceland and truly get in connection with the Icelandic culture. Whew, that's quite a resume, my dear. So without further ado, Herdís, tell us more.
Yes. So now I'm going to share my screen. And you should be able to see it now.
We do.
Correct. All right. So yes, thank you for this introduction. I had actually forgotten like half of the things that you just said about me, but they were all true. And I am here today, and I'm very pleased to be here to tell you about Skálholt. I have had this position for 1.5 years, and this is the first time I'm talking about Skálholt like this virtually. Usually I meet people in the church and tell them about that, but I'll take you on this virtual tour. So I don't know how many of you have been to Skálholt, but if you ever come, please let me know, and I'll give you the real tour. Let's begin by having a look at where Skálholt is. I don't know how familiar you are with the map of Iceland, but Skálholt is situated in South Iceland on the Golden Circle, which is the main tourist attraction of the south coast. The Golden Circle is it's actually a triangle. It's not really a circle, it's a triangle between Reykjavík, Þingvellir National Park, Gullfoss Waterfall, and Geysir Hot Spring. And people usually take this route, so they drive either to the Golden Circle or back through Skálholt. So we are situated in a very good spot. The Golden Circle is very popular, and we have had around 2 million visitors on the Golden Circle in a normal year, in the past years, pre-COVID. But I'm not saying that we have 2 million in Skálholt, and maybe we shouldn't aim at that, but we would like to have more tourists for sure. It only takes 1 hour to drive from Reykjavik to Skalholt, and we are 30 minutes from Selfoss, which is the largest town of South Iceland. And if you've been to Iceland, you've probably been to Friðheimar tomato farm, and we are only 10 minutes from that spot. So, Skálholt. Where to begin, and what should I tell you? The history is so, it's such a large history, and it goes over for such a long period. So I had to pick and choose a little bit what I should tell you. And it's just like complex to explain it, because the history dates back to 1056. But after this lecture, you will have a more understanding of what Skálholt is. I will go over the brief history and interesting facts of Skálholt. I will introduce you to some interesting characters, some of the bishops, and then I'll give you a virtual guided tour around the cathedral, just as if you were to visit the place, and I'll show you the pictures of it, the artwork and the artifacts. And then in the end, I'll give you just the current state and the future of Skálholt. And I would love for you to send questions. I'll try to answer all of them. So first thing first, what is Skálholt? We have basically broken it down into 3. It's the religion, it's history, and it's music. So if we start with the religion, so Skálholt is a place of religion. The main religion in Iceland is Lutheranism, and the majority of Icelanders are Protestants. So we used to be Catholics. Well, in the beginning we were heathen, then Catholics, then Protestants. We have just since a few days ago, we got a new pastor, a new priest. You can see him pictured there with his family. His name is Dagur Fannar Magnússon. He is one of the youngest priests in Iceland. He's only 29 years old. And he has 3 kids, and we are really, really happy to have him with us, because he's a very modern man, and he's a very good addition to the team of Skálholt. We have 3 bishops in Iceland. One is in Reykjavik, and then we have these 2 sub-bishops, one in North Iceland and one in Skálholt. And our sub-bishop is, you can see him there in the pulpit. His name is Kristján Björnsson. He is a very lively man, and he's very funny. And if you come to Skálholt, you should either have me or him give the guided tour, because he has a very good sense of humor, which is a good thing to have. So they both live on the site, which is very important. And there are services every Sunday at 11 o'clock. And then we have weddings, we have christening, we have confirmations, there are funerals, and there are different religious services and festivals throughout the year. And you can see this picture where they are outside. This was pictured last summer when we have the Skálholt festival, and they always have this service outside. And luckily we had this beautiful weather. I think it was the one day we we didn't have rain. So Skálholt is also a place of history. It is the most historical place in Iceland, one of the most historical places. You're probably familiar with Þingvellir National Park, but I would say that Skálholt is just as important when it comes to history. Skalholt was the capital of Iceland for over 750 years, and there was a medieval village there. So it was the area where you would have the wealth and the power and the knowledge. There has been the bishop's seat is there since the year 1056, and the bishop, he would be the most powerful person in Iceland. He would rule over 4 quarters of Iceland, and Icelanders, they've never had like royalty, but the bishops and the bishop family, they would almost be like the king and the royalty of Iceland. So and pictured there is askur, the wooden item there. I don't know what the name is in English, but this is like a wooden bowl with a lid on it, and people would use this to eat their meals. So they would just put everything in the bowl and they would eat, sometimes just with a spoon or a knife. And this was the way the common people would eat, but not at Skalholt. In Skalholt, they would have plates and they would have forks and knives and spoons, and they would be eating things and drinking things that no one else was eating or drinking in Iceland, because this was the place, it was the palace almost. Just to give you an idea of what it was. It wasn't a place of the commoners. I really like to collect stories of Skálholt because I believe that if I would just give you like the list of all the bishops or list of the bishops' wives or dates, years, you know, I don't think you would be that interested. But if I give you like stories of real people and things that happened, that would make you more interested in Skálholt. So I try to pick these out, and we are working with this young man who is collecting these stories and writing them in short text, so that we can use to introduce Skálholt to people in an interesting manner, because yeah, it's always best to get the personal stories. So one of the stories I learned not so long ago is that the first cup of coffee was enjoyed in Skálholt. The first one in Iceland was enjoyed in Skálholt. And it makes sense, like I told you before, this was the place where you would have the wealth and the power, the knowledge. People that lived in Skálholt, they had often traveled abroad. They had a different view of the world than the commoners. So one of the stories is when Árni Magnússon received this pound of coffee. So he had traveled abroad. Árni Magnússon, he was a professor of the University of Copenhagen, and he was a very known scholar. And if you know history of Iceland, you will know his name. He was one of the people who were making a census, the first census made in Iceland. And he would literally travel all around Iceland. This was in 1703 until 1700 something. It took them around 10 years to collect all of this information. And as Árni, he was really interested in the medieval manuscripts. So he used this opportunity because he had to go around Iceland, and it took him 10 years, as I said. And he would go and visit all the farms and the farmers, and he would of course collect their names and their age, and this was written down. And then because he was so interested in collecting the manuscripts, he always asked, "So do you have a piece of manuscript in your little farm?" And sometimes he would get some pieces, a book, or just a page or something, and he would collect all of these, and then he would take them to Skalholt, and he would keep them in Skalholt, and he was based there for the time. And as he was there in 1703, he got a package from his friend who was a Dane, and this package contained coffee beans, because Árni had coffee abroad, and he really wanted to enjoy some coffee in Iceland. So he got this package with coffee beans, and being this gentleman, he had been abroad drinking coffee, but he probably never made coffee. It was probably some nice lady who made his coffee cup, and he didn't know how to prepare it. But he knew there was something with water, there was something with beans. So when they first tried to make coffee, they made a porridge of beans, of green beans. I don't know if they ate it with a spoon or what happened, but they soon found out how to make it. They probably wrote a letter, sent it to Copenhagen, got it back like 2 months later with the recipe of how to make a cup of coffee. So stories like this I find very interesting, because you can just see these people, and it makes them human also. They're making a mistake, and they're like wondering, how does this work? So this is a nice story, and I hope that I will find out more similar. Okay, so I'm not gonna go more in details into the history at this point, but I'm going to tell you about Skálholt as the place of music. So that is the third point. The acoustic of Skálholt, I'm told, are the best in Iceland, and some say in the world. If you stand in this particular spot underneath the dome, your voice will carry very easily, and you will sing beautifully, even though you don't hold a tune. It's actually remarkable, and it's a very popular place for holding concerts. Choirs and musicians, they're very interested in coming. Every summer there is a summer festival. Summer concert festivals. It's called Sumartónleikar í Skálholti, and it's always in the beginning of July. And this festival is the oldest Baroque music festival in the Nordic countries. And there you will get, it's like contemporary music and Baroque music, and you will have these brilliant musicians come and play. This last year, a year ago, we had a visit from Kaleo. I don't know if you're familiar with this band. It's called Kaleo. They are Icelanders, but many people think they are Americans because they play this kind of American rock music. They are on tour now. I believe they were in Canada not so long ago. So they called me and asked, can we make a music video in your church? And I said yes, because I think that it's important that all sorts of people can use the church. And they came and they recorded this music video with the song I Want More. And they made a new, new version of it. So if you hear it on the radio, it's a totally different version. It's only Jökull, the singer, with his guitar, and then he has this band with strings and violins, around him, and it's a very soft song and very, very beautiful. And it's recorded live in the church. So I have no idea what this means, if it will have any difference or if it will make some kind of difference in the guests that we will receive in Skalholt. But this, they have made a lot of different music videos. For example, on a glacier or by the erupting volcano, inside an ice cave and in different places. And this video hasn't been released yet, but some of the videos have been viewed 500 million times. It's like this number, it doesn't make any sense to me, being from Iceland, you know. So, you know, maybe we'll have a flock of younger people coming to see, I don't know. It would be nice, and then we can introduce them to the history also. So yeah, I'll forward the link of the video when it's released to Jody, so she can send it your way. So we have an organist called Jón Bjarnason. He is a very lively man. He's very open and jolly, as musicians often are. And he runs the choir of Skalholt, which is a very good choir, and they have like rehearsals every week, and they often perform in concerts or at the service. And we call him the human jukebox, because he can play anything on the organ. So I got an idea last summer. I asked him if he was willing to participate in something called Óskalögin við orgelið, which means your favorite song by the organ. I don't have like this good English translation for it, but it's basically that people can come to the church. It's a free event, and they can choose. We have a list of over 100 songs. You can see that on the picture. And these are all songs that he can play. And he said, I could have a list of 300. But we thought, just to make it simple, we would have 100 songs. And and then people just give him like the number of the song they would like to hear, and he will play that song. And people are encouraged to sing along as well. And the most popular song is Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't know if you've heard Bohemian Rhapsody on an organ, but if you come to Skalholt, he will play it for you. We are thinking of maybe this summer try something new, which I would call church karaoke. Then we will have a microphone and a piano and a guitar, and people can come and sing. Because it's often so that people can sing, you know, maybe they are in a choir and they have a nice voice, but they never get to shine, you know, they never get to be the one who gets the solo, or they're not in the band or whatever, but they would like to just sing, you know. So I would like to give them that opportunity. So hopefully that will happen this summer. But this is it's become a rather popular, the favorite song by the organ. So people are now, you know, groups of people that are traveling to Skalholt, they are asking, can we have this? So he will, so he can do that. And of course we ask people to pay for that, because it's like a provided service. Okay, so now I'm gonna take you on a virtual tour around Skalholt. So this is what the church looks like on the outside on a nice day. And the picture on the right, you can see it needs maintenance. it needs new paint. So I will show you on one of the last slides that what we're doing with the church today. This church was built in 1963, and it's the 10th church on the site. So there were 9 churches built on exactly the same spot before. Now you're inside the church, and this is what it looks like on a sunny day. Then you have this, the light shine through the windows, the sun, when the sun shines through the windows, it looks like this, and it's so beautiful. So when I'm at the office and I can see the sun is shining, I often go out just to take pictures, and it always looks so beautiful. These are 2 pictures taken back and forth, so you'll see back and front, so you'll see what it looks like. This church was, the architect is Þorgeir Bjarnason, and I would say it's maybe a typical Lutheran church. It's very, like, has very straight lines and very, like, classical, what do you call it? It's like very minimalistic, very beautiful. When this church was built, it received a lot of gifts from the other Nordic countries. So the chairs and the windows and the organ are from Denmark, and the floor and the roof tiles and the building material came from Norway. And Sweden and Finland, they gave each church bells. And also Norway and Denmark also gave church bells. So each of the church bell comes from different Nordic country. So usually I start by telling people about the bishops. And at the end, at the back of the church, you'll see the list of the different bishops that we had in Skalholt. The first one was Ísleifur Gissurason. He was son of Gissur Hvíti, Gissur the White, who you can read about in the sagas. People were, the settlers were heathen when they came to Iceland, and then in year 1000 they became Christian, and then they decided shortly after to build a church, and in 1056 we had the first bishop, and until year 1801 there were bishops in Skálholt. So there were 44 bishops in 745 years. The Icelanders became Lutheran in year 1550. So there were 31 Catholic priests and then 13 Lutheran. And when I was studying how to become a guide, I remember they kept telling us, you know, they were teaching us about Skálholt, and then they were just talking about the bishops. So the only thing they told us about Skálholt was just the list of these bishops and the names, their names and the dates, the years when they were in office. And none of us really thought that was interesting. So I'm not going to tell you so much about them. There's so many other things that we can talk about, but I will tell you, and it's actually more fun to talk about them on the site. But I'll tell you about 2 of them. It's like these bishops, some of them are better known than others. Some of them never even came to Skálholt, you know. Some of them were Danish, one was from England, one was from Norway. So they didn't maybe connect so much to the society there. But there were a few who are really known to Icelanders, and one of them is Þorgeir Þorkelsson. He is the one in the statue. Saint Þorlák, he's called. He was a bishop in Skálholt from 178 and then until 93. And he is the only saint in Iceland. And it was so that when he was still alive, people realized that it was very good to make a pledge to Þorlákur. And he became a very popular bishop. And the descriptions of him show a very kind person. He was very humane and he was very kind to others. So after his death, people continued making pledges to him, and there were many stories of miracles, that he had made miracles. And he, if you are familiar with Þorláksmessa, this is the 23rd of December. This is, this day, the 23rd of December, is always called Þorláksmessa. And to us, it means this is your last chance to buy Christmas presents. But then you start to think, who is this Þorlákur? And then there is this man behind this Þorláksmessa. And so he died on that day. And that's why it's called Þorláksmessa. But when I ask people, so do you know who this Þorlákur is? Then no one knows. So he's not a very known person in our history. But I'm going to change that now. I'm going to tell everyone about Þorlákur. Another one that is probably the best known is Brynjólfur Sveinsson. And there you can see him holding a book. And he's also the man on our 1,000 krona bill. There he is holding the book Konungsbók Eddukvæða, the King's Book of Edda, I guess. I just don't know the English version. Konungsbók Eddukvæða is the Icelandic. And there he's holding that book. And on the other side, on the back side of the bill, you see the church that he made. Circa was built in 1640. And it lasted for almost 200 years. So Brynjólfur Sveinsson, he was a very known figure. He was truly like a king in Iceland. He was very powerful and wealthy. So there is interesting stories about him and his family that I will tell you when you come to Skalholt. Now, let's have a look at the artwork. We're now standing by the altar, and we're looking at the windows. So when the church was in building, when they were building it, they realized they wanted to have glass-stained windows in it. So they had a competition amongst artists of who could make the most beautiful glass-stained windows. And there was this young woman named Gerður Helgadóttir, who's pictured there as well in the black and white photos. She looks so cool. Looks like such a cool female role model. And she won the competition, and she was not even 30 years old when she entered. She was already an artist living in France, and she worked with sculptures and mosaic art pieces and glass-stained windows. And I read her autobiography or her biography, and it was interesting to read about when she was stressing about making the windows. She was stressing for time. She thought she would make the deadline and all of these things. And it's so, when you look at these, I'll give you another. When you look at these windows, they're so timeless and so beautiful. And you think, there was a person who made these, There was this young woman who was stressing because she missed the train or whatever, you know. So these windows, they make everything so magical inside the church. And each one of them has a story. And the lower ones, maybe I'll go back here. The lower ones, the bigger ones, they represent the bishops, the different bishops, but the upper ones, they represent the story of Christ. So, yeah, so, I'm so fascinated by the windows. I'm sorry, I'm just so fascinated. Another female, I really also like when I meet people in the church to tell them about that the artwork there that are considered the most prized artwork in Iceland are both or are made by women. And the altarpiece is made by Nína Tryggvadóttir, another Icelander, who she was actually the runner-up for the competition of the windows. And she really, really wanted to contribute something to the church. So she was asked to make the altarpiece. And she did so, and it was put up in 1966. And the idea behind it, she wanted people to think that the walls had broken down and Jesus is standing outside the church in this Icelandic summer landscape, and he's like approaching you. And if you sit in the church and you squint your eyes, you should see him in like 3 dimensions. And I've tried to do this and I can't really see it. But if I have a picture of like on a postcard and I look at it with a magnifying glass, then it looks like it comes out. It's really remarkable that the person who made these small mosaic tiles that, you know, when you look at a picture, it looks 3-dimensional. It looks magical. I'm now working with Nina's daughter on making souvenirs out of this altarpiece. We're going to make posters and gift cards and postcards and things like that. And in the middle picture there, you'll see the tiles that come. These are from Venice. So I believe there are thousands of tiles to make the piece. And on the picture on the right, you see how the window is reflecting the light on the altarpiece. And this is when both of these artists are talking to one another, the Nina and Gerður. So if we move on, these are some of the artifacts that are very old, that are still in the church and are still in use. The church bell is actually from the 10th century. The candlesticks that are on the altarpiece and the pulpit, the chandelier that you can see in the picture, and also the little altar, these are all from the Brynjolf's church, which dates back to the 16th century. And they are in use still today. So they were taken from the Brynjolf's church into the next church, which is called the Valgerðarkirkja, and then they were taken to the old, like small country church that they made after that, and then they were brought to this church. So they have been used in 4 different churches. Before, there was a time when the glory of Skalholt stopped, and they didn't really have a bishop there anymore. The bishop was moved to Reykjavik around 1801. And this was because most of the political power had moved to Reykjavik at this time. At the same time, they were moving Þingvellir, the parliament from Þingvellir. It was also moved to Reykjavik. There had been some devastating earthquakes that had destroyed all the houses there. So slowly this medieval village, it stopped. So there were just fewer and fewer people that lived there, and in the end, it was just a small farm with a small country church that you can see in many places in Iceland. And it was like that for a long time. And then after Icelanders became independent in year 1944, then a group of people came together and they wanted to bring back the glory of Skalholt. And that's when they decided to build the church that we have today. And it took decades and probably a lot of persuading and negotiations and things, but they decided to build a church, and they knew that down in the ground there was a lot of artifacts because there had been 9 churches on exactly the same spot before. So they rounded up all of the archaeologists. There was a team of archaeologists that worked there for I think 3 or 4 years to start to dig out all of these remains. And one of the things that they believed was there was the stone coffin. And the stone coffin had become almost like a myth because Páll Jónsson, who was buried there in the year 1211, he was buried in the stone coffin because it was that was the thing that people did in Europe at the time. So he also wanted to be buried in a stone coffin. So he asked his man to go to the nearest mountain and carve this coffin for him. And then he died and he was buried. And the tale says that is written in the story of Páll Jónsson. It says that when he was buried, the rain started to pour, and it rained so much that the harvest was destroyed. And this was written in the saga of Páll Jónsson. So they knew that there was some story of the stone coffin, but they hadn't heard about it since then, since that it was written. So the archaeologists, they were like, maybe it's just a tale, maybe it's not true. But they started digging and they found the coffin. So they were very excited, and they thought this is, the biggest find that has ever been in Iceland. And that morning, when they found the coffin, they cleaned it, and the main archaeologist, he came to the site, and everyone was really excited. It was raining a little bit that morning. And then when they started moving the lid and started to try to open it, it rained more and more and more and more. And when they had managed to lift it so that they could see the skull of the bishop, then it poured so much that they had to stop. They had to just wait a bit for the rain to stop until they could continue with their work. So I find it remarkable that this rain came down so heavily on both of these occasions. And the people that were there, they said, we have never seen such rain. And I mean, this is like in modern times. So, but when it stopped raining, they could open up the coffin and they found his skeleton, and they also found the crozier of the bishop's staff. And these are the most treasured findings that have ever been found in Iceland. They found many different things. They found a lot of tombstones and other things that you can see when you come to Skalholt. There is a museum down in the basement where you have the coffin and you have some of the tombstones. This one on the left is made out of marble from Italy, and you can read clearly what it says. There's also this underground tunnel that is believed to be there since 1200. And this was used for people to walk from their turf houses and into the church, because people came to church twice a day back in those days. So there was no excuse, even though the weather was bad, they could always go through the underground tunnel. And these are all people can come and view all of these when they come. Now I want to tell you just a little bit about the churches, the different churches. What I find remarkable is that the medieval churches were actually bigger than the one that we have today. I don't know, can you see my thing? So this here is the medieval church. And it says here 1567 to 1650. There were different churches, and they don't really have exactly what they look like, because you have the artifact very deep in the ground, and you don't have really the drawings of it. So this one is like a model of what these medieval churches look like. And this is the one that we have today, the bottom one. So you see the size is much, much bigger. Brynjólfskirkja, the one that we still have these, like the pulpit and the chandelier and the things, those were in this church. And that was built in 1650. I said 1640 earlier, sorry about that. And this lasted for a long time. And they built this one, Valgerðarkirkja, was made out of this old one. And there were descriptions of that when Brynjólfur had this church made, he wasn't saving the money. He really used the best material. He had the best workers, and he really, really put a lot of money into this church. And you can see it lasted. So that pays off. So this is the small country church, which is this one. And then you have the church today, Skalholt's church. So there were many different churches on the site. And the one we have today is the 10th one. As I said earlier, the church needed a makeover. The paint was not very good, and there is all kinds of things that needs to be fixed. You can see on the picture here that they have now taken all of the paint off. They've cleaned the paint off, and they are now fixing the outer walls. They are also fixing the church bells. This one broke in over 20 years ago. And this is our bishop, and he is very enthusiastic about having this fixed. So they are actually moving a new church, a bell from Denmark to Iceland, where they're gonna put the in a few weeks. They're also gonna change the tiles of the roof and paint it on the inside. So they're gonna have new lights. So it's gonna be a completely new church, I think, when it turns 60 years old next summer. I just hope that we'll manage to do everything in time. And now for the present times, here you see aerial photo of the site. This area here, this is the under tunnel. You see it clearly, and this is a site of archaeology that was that was made in year 2002 till 2007. So here you can walk around and you can see the different rooms of the people who lived there in 1700. We now have a new people who are running. We have separated like the restaurant and the hotel that has been running there for decades now. We have new people who are running it. So we are not, the church is not running the business anymore. We have new people that are doing it. And we hope that this will change somewhat, the drive of the business. And you can see here their logos. Hvönn is the name of the restaurant, which means Angelica. And Hotel Skalholt is here. So hopefully they will get this business up and running after COVID and bring a lot of guests to us. And our, if I just think about what do we want to do for our guests, is that we just want to give them good information. We want to give them quality service. We're building a visitor center in this old house here. This is going to be the visitor center where you can sit down for coffee. You can have, you can buy souvenirs. There's going to be a library down in the basement and a museum. So there will be a lot of interesting things for people to see, not only just going into the church, but this is a place where you can spend like a portion of the day. And this is our new logo also. I really like it. So I just think the future is very bright for Skálholt, and we're so excited about the new priest, and we are working as a team to make this a good place for people to visit. So now I think I don't have anything else. So I guess questions. Should I stop sharing or what should I do now?
You can go ahead and stop sharing if you'd like.
All right. Yeah, I just want to see I wanted to see the questions.
Well, the first one we have is a comment. Says, I was able to visit Skalholt last September on a beautiful Sunday. I even played the pump piano in the little turf building. Uh-huh. My husband and I went through the burial vault museum in the basement of the church. We love the gorgeous stained glass windows and views. I have several ancestors who are buried there. And she also did ask if the remodeling is continuing, which you've obviously said yes, that it is.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
And then a question, the turf house behind, what's the story on the turf house?
Yeah, I didn't tell you that. Because I knew I wasn't going to tell you. I couldn't tell you everything. Okay, right. So the little turf house is called Þorláksbúð. Again, Þorlákur, the saint. This is actually a replica of Þorláksbúð that was there since 1200. We believe. We're not sure exactly when they first started it. But and they don't exactly know what was the purpose of it, but probably it had different purposes throughout the centuries. It was maybe a storage room, it could be someone's office. It was used as the temporary church when they were building a new one. And before there was just this, you would just see the remains, just the walls. And then there was a group of people who wanted to rebuild this and make a replica, and they did so on top of the remains, and this was very controversial. But if you go over the story, all of the, nothing illegal happened or anything. It's just very unusual to put a replica house on top of the remains. Mm-hmm. So, but today it's a beautiful. It's a beautiful building. The man who built it, he became very interested in this task and he started studying how to make the wooden tools so he could work the wood as they did back in the days. So he went the whole way. So, when you go inside, it's really you can still smell the wood, and it's just such a beautiful place. And I know there has been some negativity, there are some people that are like totally against this, but I'm thinking it's there, it's beautiful, let's use, let's not dwell on the negative thoughts here. So I want to use this for when people are telling stories, when they have short concerts, there is this little organ you can play, and just for smaller groups, it's a very good place to sit down and talk.
Another comment, kind of question, will the remodeling be done as soon as this summer? My family and I are coming to Iceland the last week in June through the first few days of July.
Yeah, so at that time we will have the summer concert, so make sure to check out the schedule there. No, they will be in full blast of remodeling it. So there are now these things that you put outside when you're painting. So it's not going to look its best. So this is the summer where you just should go inside, I guess. They will paint it probably in August. That's what they tell me.
Okay, excellent. I know I have been there several times, and I have a very strong affinity for the stained glass windows. I just find them fascinating. So very beautiful, and the simplicity of the church is what kind of draws me. In addition, personally, my paternal Icelandic relatives spent several generations on one of the tenant farms of Skalholt, just to the south, and so it's always been kind of a must stop whenever we're in the area. Are there any other questions or comments that people have at this time?
Well, you might get questions.
I did want to mention, you mentioned Kaleo. He and his band will be in North America in April, May, and June. And I know we have several here in my area who are going to the May 1st concert that he's been going to be holding here in Minnesota. And cool. He has many, many stops both in Canada and the US. So I encourage you to look up Kaleo, and Fight or Flight is the name of the tour.
They had to delay it several times because of COVID, and then finally they could go. But they've been, you should check out their music videos, because they have been making them, they just really want to promote Iceland to their fans. So they have made these videos in all kinds of different settings. Very beautiful. And they always perform live, even by the volcano. It was a live performance. So
now you mentioned that you come to Skalholt just within the last year and a half, you said? That's when you came. And what is your job like on a day-to-day basis? What is involved in being the director of Skalholt and the estate? It's difficult to explain because sometimes at the end of the day, I'm like, what did I really do today? Because I was just doing everything. I make sure that we have enough money. I collect, I apply for funds, and I make the, what do you call it, the cultural events for the summer, because my main focus is to bring people to Skalholt, because Skalholt, in many people's minds, I mean, when I talk to the average Icelanders, I ask, so have you been to Skalholt? And they say, yes, I haven't. Yeah, I've been there, but I haven't been there for so many years. And I ask, why haven't you been there? I don't know, so it's like everyone knows what Skalholt is, but they're not so keen on going there. So now I'm trying to
waking up their interest in Skalholt, particularly on, because I know Icelanders, they love history and they love their own history.
Right.
So I'm trying to, offer them or like bring that out there, just telling them these different stories.
We have another comment. Thank you very much. I learned much more about the historic site and hope to visit it again soon. Shauna Ludlow Smith, my great-grandparents emigrated from Iceland to Spanish Fork, Utah in 1884.
Wow. I'm very, very interested in the stories of the West Icelanders. And one of my ancestors, she actually almost went to, to Washington Island, which was one of the first people who went from Eyrarbakki. She lived there, but she became pregnant. So they decided to wait, and then they never left. So I'm almost a Wisconsinite, I guess.
Another question. What does the word Skalholt translate to in English? Is there a translation for it?
Yeah, so Skálholt means, Skál means like a bowl, and Holt is a hill. That's why the hotel has this logo that goes up and then over and up. But our bishop, he was saying it used to be Skálaholt, and Skáli is like a little hut. Skáli is like the longhouses of the Vikings is Skáli. So I guess it's the hill where you have the longhouse or something. But it's a good question. But skál is also when you drink. Skál.
Yes. Celebration.
Yeah.
Lots of different ways to interpret that.
Yeah, exactly. And you can twist it around in all kinds of directions. It's really fun.
Well, I'll give folks one more chance to make any comments or questions. One came in, a great program. Thank you. And I'd like to thank you, Herdís, for joining us today. We appreciate your time, as well as all the efforts you went into not only making this presentation, but also the things that you've done to kind of reawaken Skalholt in our minds. And I think, as you've already heard, many of us look forward to returning again and visiting you along the way. That would be amazing.
I of course forgot to put the the site, the website. It's skalholt.is, and you can just send an email to skalholt@skalholt.is. That ends up in my mailbox.
That's you.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. For those of you that saw the newsletter that went out from Icelandic Roots, the address, I believe, is in that article, so you can find it there as well. And as I mentioned earlier, to Herdís, you can just simply Google it. It comes up usually as one of the very first items.
Yeah. We're working on a new website, so.
Well, it's a pretty nice website, though. I just love the pictures of the church and the views, especially from the drones and that sort of thing. So, well, we are over our allotted hour or so. So I think we will say thank you again so much for being with us. Just an amazing presentation. You did an awful lot of work, and we're very appreciative of it. And I will remind all of our viewers, thank you for coming. And we'd also like to remind you that we have a number of other events coming up on our Icelandic Roots calendar, and please take a moment to visit the calendar of events on our website and check out what's coming up next. So thank you again, Herdís, and Doug, certainly for your technical expertise. And again, all of the viewers that were here today. And hopefully we'll see you all again at Skálholt soon. So thank you, viewers.